Welcome to The Next Chapter, a show about how to move your life forward and what comes next. I'm your host, Carey Peña, co-founder of the Center for Positive Media. Hi, everyone. I'm Carey Peña, and this is The Next Chapter. We focus on how to take our stories where we are today and move them forward. Joining us in studio, Dr. Brenda Combs, the author of Finding My Shoes. And you are the ambassador of inspiration.
Yes,
and
I am.
And then some. So you appeared, I also do a morning show called Good Morning Sunshine, Better Days Ahead. And that show is all focused on mental strength and mental health. And I have to say to the audience, Dr. Combs came on our show and my co-host, Brandon Lee, and I were completely blown away by your story. I mean, literally, we couldn't stop talking about it. We're still talking about it. So, I just have to turn the floor over to you to kind of share with the audience. I mean, you were an addict for so many years, in and out of recovery and addiction clinics for 13 times, sleeping under a bridge. I mean, just tell me kind of how you got to that place.
So I ended up in that place because I didn't believe in myself. I was bullied at a very young age, and it really, it hurt me deeply. My soul was wounded. A little boy that I went to school with called me the N-word, spit in my face, and said I was stupid. And I ran to my teacher, who should have been my protector, and I told her, "Oh, Grover just spit in my face and called me the N-word." And I was waiting for comfort, for an answer to feel safe and secure. And instead, she looked at me and very harshly said, "Brenda, go wipe your face and get in line." And I felt crushed. And for the next, maybe 10 years, up until I was a teenager, I just didn't feel like I fit in. I felt ugly. I felt insecure. And I made the decision that I just need to be away from high school kids and go to college because they're more mature and they'll probably accept me better. So I graduated from high school early. And a year before my graduating class, started college and realized I don't fit in with this group because they were older and more mature, and I just lacked confidence. And in that time, I met a group of girls, the partiers, and they love and accept everybody. So, of course, I gravitated towards that crowd, and then realized I had no self-control because they could go out and party and still get up and go to class the next morning, and I couldn't. And that was the beginning of my downfall. And I dropped out of school and got a job, ironically, working at a bank. And then eventually went to beauty school and worked at restaurants. But the drinking and the partying just got worse until I was introduced to crack cocaine. And with that one hit, it changed my life forever. I was immediately a drug addict and lost control. And honestly, you know, as many people who've had issues with drugs and alcohol, you know, the big problem really wasn't so much the drugs, it was me. It was my lack of self-worth. I didn't value myself. I didn't appreciate myself. I didn't like myself. I didn't even love myself. And I never gave Brenda an opportunity to thrive because I believed the lie that I was stupid, that I was nobody, and that I was nothing. So the drugs was just the medication that I used to try to make myself feel better.
Can you tell me about the moment when the crack cocaine was introduced into your life? What was that like? Where were you? What happened?
So I was dating at the time. I had a boyfriend, and I was just working at Village Inn, and I was going to beauty school at the same time. But I had no goals, but I was just going through the motions. And I had the flu that particular day, and so they sent me home early. So I came home early, and my boyfriend and another friend that I grew up with were in the house. And as I walked in, they were smoking. And I was like, well, you know, what is that? And they were like, oh, this is called crack. And like, here, try it. You'll like it. And so they gave me some and I tried it because, of course, I didn't love myself, I never thought about the consequences. I just tried it. and I liked it a lot immediately. And I wanted more and more. And honestly, that became my love. I worked to make money, to buy crack, to smoke the crack so that I wouldn't think about my life. And when the crack would run out and I would start feeling and thinking about my life, I'd have to go make more money, to go buy more crack, to smoke it, to get to stop feeling. And that was really the reason that I smoked, was to not feel because of the pain, versus going to therapy or counseling. And, back when I was a teenager or even a young adult, it just wasn't something that my family, especially in the African-American community, it was just never something we were going to go and do, was have counseling or therapy. We were going to take it to the church. We were going to take it to the Lord. We were going to pray, for Jesus to come back down and handle the situation. But we were not going to go get therapy or counseling. So I just self-medicated to try and make myself feel better. But I remember the day like it was yesterday, and it changed my life forever because I was immediately addicted to that feeling. But the feeling was temporary, which is why you had to constantly chase it.
That's really important what you're saying, because I think it's a difficult thing to understand sometimes, the addiction process and how that happens to people. You wonder, you're going about your life, you're in school. What happens? You just explained it so clearly.
Yes.
I smoked and I wanted that feeling to numb the rest of my life.
Right.
And that led you down a clear path of destruction to the point where you ended up sleeping beneath a bridge.
Yeah. From there, just making bad choices. And then along with that, being a drug addict and buying the drugs, eventually trying to sell drugs to keep up with my own addiction. And it didn't take long for me to lose my job, lose my apartment, sleeping in my car. Now I'm couch surfing from this place to that place, staying in hotels, having a boyfriend that's a drug dealer because it's going to be free, but it's never free. You pay for it in one way or another, and I just went from being, casual drug user to literally addicted. And I know that it's all contributed to that very first time.
So when you think right now and you're talking to me about that life, like I see tears in your eyes. You've now written a book. The book is being made into a movie. You've told the story many times. You're a public speaker, but it's so painful still to think about these different moments.
Because I look back, I do have some regret. Well, I have many regrets, but I also feel that as much as you will hear people say, if I had to change anything in my past, I wouldn't. Well, I'm one of those people who would change things. If I had the opportunity to go back and change things, I would have never been raped. I would have never been beaten. I wouldn't have been stabbed. I wouldn't have got shot in the drive-by shooting. I wouldn't have allowed myself to be abused. If I was able to change those things, yes, I would change them. However, the reality is that I still firmly believe that because of those things that I went through, I am where I am today, unfortunately, because of some of those painful, abusive, hard life lessons that I allowed myself to go through. And then many times put myself in unsafe situations. That still doesn't give anyone permission to abuse and to hurt me and take advantage of me. No still means no. But if I had the opportunity to go back and change those things, of course I would, but my life lessons wouldn't be the same, because I think because of where my path and my journey have led me to be a motivational speaker, I had to endure those feelings. I had to endure that pain, that trauma, and that abuse, and come out on the other side and heal and recover and move forward, and now be able to share it with other people to let them know, yes, you can overcome trauma. You can overcome being raped and abused and beaten. You can overcome being neglected, and you can really overcome that hopeless state of mind. Because if you change your mindset, you put yourself in a position to be open to move forward. You put yourself in a position to be a sponge, to take in information, to take in love, to take in options, to take in choices. And if you're not open and you're completely closed off, nothing's going to change. So I took that chance to be open, to change my life, and then just start telling people, hey, if I can do it, you can do it.
So I, of course, want to talk about the title of your book, Finding My Shoes. And you were sleeping underneath a bridge. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But for a moment, I want to tell you that what struck me when I first interviewed you, well, everything about you struck me as completely incredible. But when you reflected back on the trauma, you were able to pinpoint this traumatic experience that you had to be put through at age 5, and how you identify that boy spitting in your face, calling you the N-word, and then the teacher not properly caring for you. That you identify that as your big T trauma is something pretty profound. It tells us a lot about traumatic experiences in our life.
Yes.
And how they play such a huge role.
Yeah. And more so for me was how I was just dismissed. My feelings, my thoughts, the teacher who should have been my protector was a racist. And I didn't realize it until that moment. And when I realized it, it was never the same. I was so unhappy. So I had no one there that I could trust, no one who was protecting me, no one who was looking out for my best interest. I was a teacher for 15 years, so I know that there's an oath that you take to protect your students, to be that mandated court reporter, to look out for your students' best interest. And when something bad happens, it's my responsibility to make sure that I've done everything that I can to protect those students. And it's not just from an academic, educational perspective, but just human decency. And my teacher at that time, she didn't do that because she didn't care about me. She didn't love me. And when he called me the N-word and her response was so harsh, I felt that immediate. My heart was broken. And I carried that with me all into adulthood.
So do you interpret that as sort of crushing how you felt about yourself as a person?
At that moment, at 5 years old, yes.
That is just so powerful to me, and that it's, that you can't get around the obvious feelings of racism. And how that impacted you.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that you're speaking that out.
And here's the interesting thing. That kid Grover, we grew up together, if you will, in Flagstaff, because it's a small town. So we went to school together my entire life. And ironically, I have to look at him from two different perspectives. There's one part of me that's not mad at him because I feel like at 5 years old, he was only repeating what he was taught. He was only saying what he knew. He was only going through what he saw every day at his house. So on that part, as a 5-year-old, 2 5-year-olds, the 5-year-old Brenda can't be mad at him because he didn't know any better. He didn't know the difference between right and wrong. He may not have even known what the word meant. He and I both knew it was not a good word because of the venom in his voice when he said it. But however, the Brenda that I am today, I can forgive the 5-year-old Grover because 5-year-old Grover didn't know any better.
Have you ever talked to him about this?
I've never seen him since high school. But if he were to be listening today, I honestly would tell him, Grover, I understand. I forgive you. I love you. It's okay. I've recovered. And I feel like, because at that age, he couldn't possibly have known, because I didn't know. I had never heard the word before. I had to go home and tell my parents, because my parents didn't use that word. And back then, I'm going to be 60 soon. So back then, that song wasn't used in songs or rap music. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a word that my family used, but I knew it was a bad word because it was followed by stupid. So I knew it wasn't a good word. But today, if I were to be able to see him, I have no ill will. Because first of all, it doesn't benefit me to hold on to it. And he may have grown up all of his life not even knowing. Here's the incredible thing. He may not even realize that he hurt me. So
it's such a powerful story, and it led you down such a deep, dark path. So take our viewers and listeners to the point when you talk about this as the impact point, the turning point when you write your book. So you were sleeping under the 7th Street Bridge, and tell everyone what happened.
So I went on a really bad drug run, and it was probably about a week. No food, barely any water. I felt on the inside that I was dying. And I had been smoking, and I went into what they call a cocaine coma. So I don't know how long I had been asleep, but when I woke up and realized someone had stolen the shoes off of my feet. I'm a homeless drug addict, hadn't had a bath in weeks. I know I smelled bad, I looked bad, but I woke up and someone had stolen these Converse. I had gotten these Converse at one of the community resource centers. And the shoes were old, they were dirty, they had holes in the bottom of them, but they were mine. And without those shoes, I knew immediately my life is either going to be over, I'm going to die tonight if I don't get help. Because being a homeless drug addict, and in the neighborhood that I was in, there was a lot of violence. And with no shoes, I couldn't run from a gang or a rapist or a gangbanger or a drive-by. And as addicts, we had littered the alley with bottles and bricks and boulders just to keep the police from driving through there, because that would give us enough time to run and,
so you
get
couldn't
away.
walk barefoot through there.
So you couldn't walk barefoot through that alley.
And it's the summer in Phoenix,
it was sunny.
Arizona.
It was 115 degrees that day, and I had to walk from that alley to University Park where the homeless were with no shoes on. And by the time I got to the park, I had 2nd and 3rd degree burns. My feet were cut. They were burning. They were bleeding. I was in so much pain. And for the first time in over 10 years, I literally just fell down on my knees in the middle of the park. And I just said, God, I cannot do this anymore. And it's not that I didn't pray per se when I was homeless, because many of us will be like, oh God, please don't let me get caught. Please don't let me go to jail. Please let me get the dope tonight. Please don't let, all of these superficial, prayers. So like many of us, we did that. But this time, when I was in that park looking around the environment that I was in, and I could see like homeless women and homeless veterans and older adults, like senior citizens. And I just looked around and I said, God, I can't do this. God, I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to do with my life, but I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to be a drug addict anymore. And I'm begging you to take it away from me. And immediately I felt like a cool breeze, like the wind started blowing. And for me, I felt something inside say, Brenda, it's going to be okay. Go turn yourself in. It's going to be all right. I got you. And I literally got up and I just told everyone around me, you know what? I'm going to go turn myself in. They were like, yeah, sure you are. Like the other 30 times that you've said that when bad things have happened. But this time, it was it. It was a done deal. I made my way down to the probation officer, signed in. My PO came and greeted me with a smile, and she shook my hand. And she welcomed me into her office. As bad as I know I smelled, she smiled the whole time. And she looked me in the eye and she said, Brenda Combs, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something different about you. And against my supervisor's advice, I'm not going to sign the warrant for your arrest. I'm going to give you yet one more opportunity to get yourself together. And so I went into my 13th program, Center for Healings, and I moved into Steps House out there in Glendale. 13th program, no different than the first. The rules of a program are basically the same. The decor is different, the people are different, but a basic program is a program. The difference was I was finally done. I was at a point where I was just willing to listen and just take a few suggestions. And that's what I did. I went through that 13th program and I listened and I took suggestions. So I decided, if they want me to write a letter to make amends, I'll do that. If I need to go to a meeting, I'll do that. If I need to read this chapter, I'll do that. Whatever they suggested, I did it, whether I agreed or not, because I realized the people that were trying to help me had something that I didn't have: peace and happiness. So it wasn't about wealth. It wasn't about a status. It wasn't about a title. I was just seeking peace and happiness. And I started that journey, and next month, it'll be 27 years.
Wow. Wow.
27 years. Yeah.
What?
And it really comes down to, my God, I promise you that if I can go from being a homeless drug addict for 10 years, living underneath the 7th Avenue Bridge, to today being Dr. Brenda Combs, then I promise you anything is possible.
I feel like we need applause in the podcast studio. I'm sorry. I just need a lot of applause because that's so amazing. So the next chapter for you, what does that look like?
Well, the next chapter, this year I'm going to turn 60, and I'm celebrating life. I'm happy. I'm at peace. And I feel that my journey is to live out what my title is, Ambassador of Inspiration. I want to be able to let people know that if they want to be happy and they want to be successful, it starts with them believing in themselves and their ability to do their best, getting up every morning, looking themselves in the mirror and say, I am intelligent, and I'm capable of achieving greatness. And then combine that with practicing love, kindness, and forgiveness, not taking everything that happens to us personally, then you're on the right path to peace and happiness, which to me is success.
So how did you free yourself? Guilt and shame is something that just chains people down, right? Guilt and shame is something different.
Yes.
Right? Guilt is actions we have done that we feel sad about. Shame is something that we feel is an interior part of who we are, and we feel shameful about that.
Right.
Those are different things. Okay. But I'd imagine both of those things impacted you. And so for you to stand up and tell all these parts of your story and freeing yourself from both guilt and shame, how does that feel?
Well, right now, the feeling is incredible, but getting there was a little bit difficult. How I overcame all of that is I did a combination of therapy and counseling. I went to the Center Against Sexual Abuse, and that freed me of the guilt of it wasn't my fault.
That's right.
And then my probation officer suggested that I take assertiveness training because I had no self-confidence, no self-worth, no value, no self-esteem. Not low self-esteem, none.
No self-esteem.
No self-esteem. So taking the assertiveness training and learning how to look people in the eye and how to be comfortable and how to speak up for myself made all of the difference. Then the next thing for me was practicing positive affirmations. So I wrote an affirmation, I believe in myself. And at that time, I didn't have a support system. So I wrote this affirmation. I would get up every morning and I'd say, I believe in myself and my ability to do my best. I am intelligent. I'm capable of achieving greatness. Today, I will learn. I must learn. Today, I will read. I will write. I will listen. Today, I will learn to work with others. I won't give up, because to give up would be easier. So today I'm going to make the right choice and do the right thing, even when no one is watching. And I repeated that affirmation to myself over and over again. I printed it on paper. I had a little sticky pad on my steering column. I had it on the mirror in my bathroom. I had it on the refrigerator in the kitchen. I memorized that affirmation and I kept telling myself that over and over again. I believe in myself and my ability to do my best. I'm intelligent. I'm capable of achieving greatness. I'm going to make the right choice and do the right thing even when no one is watching. And I said that until I believed it. And once I believed it, that made all of the difference. And then when things would pop up, one of the things that I took away from therapy that helped me probably more than anything else is my counselor said, Brenda, you need to always remember what other people think about you is none of your business. Stop taking everything personal. Not everybody's going to be a friend or a fan. And when you can achieve that, life is your pedestal. You can do whatever you want. And when I realized she's right, what other people think about me is none of my business. I can't change or force or make someone. People are going to come and go. They're going to ebb and flow through your life, good, bad, temporary, long term. But I'm not going to take it personal. I'm going to enjoy people while they are in my presence, in my life, in my circle. And when it's time for them to move on to their journey, I wish them well, but I keep going.
Yes. And without regret.
Yeah, no regrets.
So where can people follow along with your story?
Well, I am all over the place.
Yes, you are.
People can come out and actually see me live and in person. Every Friday morning, we give away free food to the community from 8 to 9 at our Sober Living House in Maryvale, and it's open to the public. We've been doing it for over 2 years. And then, of course, follow me on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my website, Brenda Combs. I'm all over the place. I also, in addition to my book, I also have a theater group. And right now we are gearing up for our fall theater season with a whole new lineup of new plays. And I still am doing things for the community. In addition to the free food, I have a nonprofit foundation called Finding My Shoes, where we provide shoes, clothes, water, and hygiene products to the homeless community, specifically downtown underneath the 7th Avenue Bridge. And we also work with the Justice Center that serves our homeless seniors.
What do you want your life story to say?
It's interesting that you say that because Mother's Day just passed and I had dinner with my boys and I wanted to know what they thought was my best attribute as a mother. And they said that my legacy is going to always come down to how much I care for other people.
And now you're also caring for yourself.
Amen.
So bravo. Thank you so much for coming here and sharing your story. I have so much admiration for you. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for inviting me and letting me let people know that nothing's impossible. As long as they believe in themselves and try to make good choices, things will get better.
Dr. Brenda Combs, Ambassador of Inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you.